Imagine this, you're standing on the top deck of a cruise ship. The salt air, the ocean spread out before you, and the sound of a ship horn. All this is the start of a journey that's just by yourself. No waiting on friends to commit, no compromising on your plans, just you, the sea, and the incredible journey ahead. Welcome to solo cruising. When I booked my first solo cruise, I had no idea where to begin. I scoured websites, compared itineraries, and wondered if traveling alone would feel isolating. But here's what I learned. Choosing the right cruise line makes all the difference. If you're new to solo cruising, you're going to want to choose a cruise line that's fit for solo travelers. So here's some great examples. The first is Virgin Voyages. Virgin Voyages is one of my favorite cruise lines for solo traveling. Not only are they stylish and upscale, but they're adults only. And these ships are specifically designed for adults only in mind. Not only that, they also have some options for solo cruisers. This is one cruise I went on as a solo traveler, and I had a great deal of fun on board. Met a lot of new people, enjoyed every activity, and if you're looking for just some nice quiet downtime, they have options for that too. So Virgin Voyages is definitely a go-to. Norwegian Cruise Lines is one of the pioneers in solo cruise traveling. They started off with cabins dedicated to the solo cruise travelers. So what they did is they made some studio cabins on board with a lounge dedicated towards those studio cabins. Studio cabins are typically a little bit smaller. However, there is no need to pay for a second passenger. Why pay for an empty bed if that person's not even there? So Norwegian Cruise Lines is great for this. And I've sailed them personally and I enjoyed it. It's a great place to make connections. And the lounges is a great place to hang out and meet new people if you're willing to step out of your comfort zone just a little bit. Solo traveling on Royal Caribbean is something that's a little newer to Royal Caribbean, but they are starting to offer some options on a few of their ships. So they have options where you can get a cabin without paying what is called the supplement fare, where you have to pay for another person who's not even there. So they have that option where you can go solo and not have to pay that. And honestly, Royal Caribbean is a great option for those who are a little more adventurous minded. They have surf simulators on board, rock climbing walls, just to name a few of the activities. You can go zip lining on a couple of the ships. There's so many options there. MSC is another option. They have cabins that are for solo travelers as well, where you don't have to pay that single supplement is what it's called, which is basically just paying for another person. So if you want to go by yourself, you have to pay for the fare of two people to go. If you're looking for something a little more higher end and upscale, then Viking and Silversea are great options as well. Unfortunately, I have not experienced either of these cruise lines just yet, so I can't report on them. However, I would say after scouring the internet, they have some options as well. So cruise lines are finally catching on to the idea that sometimes people don't want to wait for others to commit to a trip or want to make plans outside of that. And sometimes people just like to travel alone. It's a great time to step back, relax, and spend some alone time by yourself. One of my favorite ways that I self-care is I go on trips. So if you're one of these people as well, it's a great place to go. You can meet new people, step out of your comfort zone, or you can kind of hang back. Nothing beats reading a book on your balcony and just enjoying the sea breeze going by. So cruise lines are finally catching on to this, that people sometimes want to travel alone, and it's becoming more of a growing trend. So the nice thing about these solo cabins is you're not paying for that empty bed or waiting for somebody else's schedule to match yours. You're free to go whenever and wherever you want. That is the wonderful thing to solo cruising. I have done it several times myself, and I'm going to be honest with you, it is just as enjoyable as going with someone else if you're willing to step out of your comfort zone just a little bit. Or if you're not, that's okay too. Sometimes I like to be a more by myself kind of person. You can do that as well. That is the wonderful thing about cruising by yourself, is you have the option to go with others, or you could just kind of hang back and do your own thing. It is totally fine. No one is judging you. One thing about solo cruising is you do want to understand solo pricing. So you're going to want to find a cruise line that offers solo cabins. The reason this is, one of the first lessons I've personally learned is cruises, the pricing that they offer a lot of times is meant for 2 people. They want to fill them ships up with people. That's how they make their money. Most of the cabin pricing that you see online when they're advertising is based on a double occupancy. This means that solo travelers often can get stuck with the extra charge, but don't let that stop you. There are solo cabins that I mentioned earlier. That way you can avoid that frustrating fee. You don't have to pay that extra supplement for an empty bed. That just doesn't make sense. So you can book a solo cabin. They have several different options. You don't have to do an interior on all ships. Some of them offer balconies that are for solo travelers, ocean view. You can even get a suite if you wish. So that is one thing that is awesome. But the key to this is to book early, because these do sell out fast. You're going to want to get that right away. One time I waited too long to book a solo cabin, and because of this, I had to pay that double occupancy fee. And honestly, you don't want to do that. Learn from my mistakes. Picture this. You walk into the main dining room on the first night of your cruise. You're solo, so you glance around. You're like, you see all these tables with families and everything. You're like, should I ask for a table alone, or should I ask to sit with a group of strangers? What should I do? Here's my advice, honestly. Go for sitting with a group of strangers. Like, take that leap. Some of my best cruise friendships I have ever made have been by taking that leap. Share a meal with people you never met, because you never know what you might learn about people and expand yourself. Hey, if you do enjoy your time alone, totally understand. I've done this sometimes myself. Go ahead and sit by yourself and enjoy a peaceful, relaxed dinner. Or if you're open to meeting new people, ask the maitre d' at the restaurant to have you seated with the solo travelers. A lot of cruise lines do have a solo traveler table set up, and you can sit there and join people for dinner that are also traveling solo, and you can make some friends that way as well. Or hey, if you want to be crazy like I've done, have them sit you at a big table with a whole bunch of strangers and just get to know everybody. Hey, I remember one night on board, I sat next to a elderly couple who have been cruising for over 30 years. The experiences and the stories they told throughout dinner that night was just amazing. You could also experience that for yourself, but just stepping out of your comfort zone that little bit. So I recommend sitting at the big table, but hey, if you're a little more shy, there's no pressure. That is the beautiful thing about solo cruising. There is no pressure to do anything. There is nobody pushing you. It's all up to you. So you have that ability. I know one thing everybody always worries about is it's safe to travel alone. Just like anywhere, you got to keep your mind about you, and your safety should always be your top priority. But the world is full of incredible experiences, so just be smart about how you travel and how you feel traveling alone. One thing I recommend is be vague about personal details. If somebody asks you where you're from, don't use your address. Don't go out sharing that. All you need to do is just be like, hey, I live in this city. You can make it up. Nobody's going to fact check you. So you can say you're from a general region, and don't give them, hey, I live over here, at 101 North 1st Street in New York City. Like, nobody needs to know that. Just be like, hey, I'm from New York City, or hey, no one's going to know. Also, when you're in ports, definitely stay aware. That's one thing I just advise everybody always, is just stay aware. One thing I recommend when I'm traveling by myself is I do have my cell phone set up to either an international plan, or I'll buy a SIM card locally, or I'll get an eSIM. Depends on what phone I'm traveling with. The newer iPhones I have, I do the eSIM, where I can use the local cell phone towers, and I'll have GPS on my phone. The reason I do this is I don't want to get lost. I sometimes have never been to these places before, so the less likely I am to get lost, the more confident I feel in these ports. Another thing is, maybe you want to stick with some groups while exploring. Even if you love your independence, sometimes booking an excursion on the ship means you go with people from the ship, and usually leads to a safer experience. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Or you can even pair up with some travelers that you met at the solo table and go out and do a thing solo. But just remember one thing in these ports: if somebody's talking to you and it seems too good to be true, that is definitely a red flag and a warning sign. Don't go running towards that red flag. Just no, don't do it. If it's too good to be true, it is. And of course, you're always going to want to trust your instincts. If something feels off, remove yourself from the situation and get out. Your safety is priority. and in no means should you put anything above your safety when you're traveling. One time a vendor at port kept insisting that I follow him to a secret shop or see his shop. Honestly, my gut said no. I'm like, I'm not doing that. It just didn't feel comfortable to me. So I just said no, and I kept walking. They will a lot of times leave you alone if you just keep walking and walk with purpose. So that is one thing to always just, if something in your stomach doesn't feel right about a situation, your stomach is probably telling you the truth. On a cruise, you might be thinking, what if I don't want to be that social? That is the beautiful thing about cruises. You can be as social as you want to be, or you can just be as reserved as you want to be. There is no judgment, and for either direction, it's totally fine. I've done both. I've gone on cruises and just stayed in my room and relaxed and just enjoyed and caught up on some book reading and some work on my laptop at my own pace. But you decide when to engage with others and when to just hang back. It's totally up to you. If you want to get out of your comfort zone, you can attend solo traveler meetups. Most ships do offer those. Just look at your daily planner and you'll definitely notice like solo traveler meetup or something like that, usually on the schedule almost every day. So you'll be surprised how many other solo cruisers are also looking to engage. If you wish to engage with others, that is an option on board. One thing, if you don't feel like you click with someone or something feels a little off, no worries. These ships are huge, and honestly, you can easily just move on and ignore them. They will disappear into the crowd after a little bit of time. So, and if somebody is honestly making you feel uncomfortable, definitely bring that up to the crew and maybe even talk to a security officer on board, because you're, once again, just like on the ports, on the ship, your safety is priority. And another advice, like I just said, engage with the crew. You can make friends with them. They'll look out for your best interest. If something feels a little off to them, they'll let you know a lot of times. And honestly, they are good friends to make as well. They've traveled the world. They have great stories of going all over the place and different passengers they've met throughout. So that is one thing that's really cool, is I always enjoy talking with the crew on board and hearing their stories and talking to them about where they're from, their families. Just getting to know the crew is amazing. And honestly, by the end of the cruise, I feel like we're best friends. So the nice thing about cruises is you can meet people from all sorts of backgrounds. I've met a couple retirees who literally just travel the world. They're digital nomads as retirees. I thought that's really cool. Honestly, that might be me when I grow up, so it's kind of nice doing a time machine. But I've met everybody in between. Somebody who just graduated med school, got to meet them. I've met all sorts of different people by just stepping out of my comfort zone just enough where I can meet other people. So this is all things I've done in an evening, this whole list I just gave you. So solo cruising opens the door to so many unexpected and meaningful encounters. You get to meet people from all different backgrounds, and it's just cool learning about other people, in my opinion. One thing when you're going on a cruise, you always want to pack smart. You don't have somebody helping you carry your stuff on board, so you don't want to be lugging 14 suitcases behind you if it's just yourself. Like, that's too much. Don't do that. But packing light is definitely key, and just make sure you bring the essentials. You don't need to go overboard. You don't need 17 pairs of shoes that match with 14 different pants. Like, don't worry about all that. No one's going to judge you. And most of the time, you're never going to see these people again in life. So you don't have to dress to impress all the time. But if you are somebody who likes to be a little more stylish, you can be. But just keep in mind, the solo cabins a lot of times are a little bit smaller than cabins meant for 2 or more people. So keep that in mind when you're packing. Here's what I always bring: your essential medications. You're not going to find those in the ports, especially in the doses that you need. So always bring those along with any medical devices that are necessary for you. You don't want to leave those at home because you're not going to be able to pick those up. A lot of other stuff you can, but not these 2 items. So definitely always pack those, is my recommendation. One thing you're going to want to pack is, of course, clothing. So you're going to want to do a little bit of casual and a little bit of dress clothes. So kind of something that sometimes you can mix them together. Cruise dress codes have definitely relaxed a little bit, so this makes it easier. You no longer need to lug around that 3-piece suit or even that tuxedo that I've worn on a couple cruises. But it is nice to have a sharp outfit for those kind of the formal nights. But Outside of that, usually slacks and a dress shirt is fine, or just a nice dress for the ladies. So don't worry about going overboard. You don't have to do that as much anymore. You don't need a formal evening gown or a tuxedo. But if you are that person who enjoys wearing those, you can bring those along and look extra spiffy. Totally up to you. Another thing, obviously, I always recommend, people ask me this all the time, hey, what do you recommend as far as documentation for traveling? Do you need a passport card, a passport book? What about just taking my driver's license? Like, all those are options. However, personally, I always like to travel with a passport book. This to me is very important because it opens up the ability, God forbid, but if there's an emergency, you have a passport book that gives you the ability to travel and fly out of almost anywhere. So if you need to get somewhere really quick, a passport book enables that. The card is only good for ships, and your driver's license, unfortunately, unless you're returning to the exact same US port or another US port, a lot of times that isn't as easy to work with. If you need to fly between countries, your driver's license, unfortunately, is not going to cut it. So another thing I like to pack is a light and versatile bag, which is great for short excursions. So it's usually a place I'll put my passport, my cell phone, my wallet, things, just light things, and I keep it on my body and on my person. That way I have a place to store my items. So the best part is, if you forgot something, don't worry. Most of the ports have what you need. You can pick up some clothing or an extra hat or something if you need to, or even some of the basics like sunscreen and basic medications like, you know, Tylenol, Advil, things like that. You can definitely pick up in port or even on the ship. So don't worry about packing those as much. But if you want to bring them with you, you definitely can. Just a couple ideas that I have for when I pack, because I have been that person lugging too much luggage. And if you're going to a place in Europe, the roads aren't comfortable for dragging your suitcase anyways. So definitely keep that in mind. One thing that's very important if you're going on a solo cruise is budgeting. You're going to want to make sure you set aside money for things on board. So a couple things you don't want to forget about, of course, is the gratuities on board. So these are typically added daily and given to the hardworking crew. It's just a, hey, thank you, you're doing a great job. So you're definitely going to want to budget those. Typically depends on the cruise, but I've seen them range from anywhere from about $14 a day all the way up to about $20, $25 a day. So it depends on what cruise line you're on, but just keep that in mind when you're traveling. Another expense you're going to want to budget for is, of course, excursions. If you plan on going with ship excursions, a lot of times you can prepay for all those, and you're able to just go ahead and book those. But if you would like to go out either on your own or with a group, you might bring some money with you. That way you can budget for that as well. If you want to get drink packages, that's another thing, and Wi-Fi. All this bundled together, I would say you're going to want to book ahead, and that way you can get the best prices, and that way it's already taken out of your budget and you know it's already paid for. One less thing you got to worry about. Honestly, a cruise vacation is a great way to do stress-free, and booking ahead helps eliminate stress. So that's one thing I always recommend. Now, souvenirs and onboard purchases, that's another thing you're going to want to budget for. If you want to bring gifts back for people or what have you, trust me, the duty-free deals and some of the things on board do add up fast. So you're going to want to set aside some money and be prepared for that. I have many times thought I had everything budgeted perfectly until I got the final bill, and I'm like, man, I probably bought one too many sodas on board, or hey, that spa treatment was a little more than I thought, or on my last cruise, even the fine dining, I was like, whoa, that was a little bit more than I thought. But I had the money. But you want to make sure you're budgeted and have the funds set aside, because you don't want to end up just surprised. Learn from me and definitely plan ahead. Solo cruising isn't just about the vacation. It's an amazing experience which allows you to open up your eyes. You'll gain confidence. You get to meet fascinating people from all different walks of life, and you'll discover whole new ways to experience the world. So are you ready to take the leap and try solo cruising? If so, let me know in the comments what excites you most about your first solo cruise. And if you found this information helpful, definitely hit that subscribe button. And in a small world, travel's large.